Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am just another tinfoil hat. Welcome to my show. Now, today I am very excited. We will be discussing a super weird UFO question mark encounter from my wonderfully weird state of Wisconsin, the truly bizarre case of the Ogema Oddity. So, this case takes place the night of August 12th, 1967, just outside of, you may have guessed it, Ogema, Wisconsin, and involves the Medke couple of Brookfield, Wisconsin. Now, apparently, they had just been returning home from a camping trip and decided to visit with some relatives who lived just west of the tiny town of Ogema. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Medke slept in their camping trailer, which was parked between the garage and the milk house. Remember, this is Wisconsin. While their children slept inside the home. Now, around 2:30 in the morning, they were woken up by, surprise, surprise, the barking of their German shepherd, who was going absolutely berserk and, incidentally, running away from where they were and headed towards the house. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that doesn't really seem like the best sign. Mrs. Medke ventured to look outside of the trailer and then, in hushed tones, told her husband to take a look at the neighboring pasture. To his amazement, he saw this bizarre fluorescent object, the shape of a half moon, over the nearby pasture. He claimed that the flat end was either directly on the ground or slightly above it. Remember, I said this was a UFO question mark case. And that this thing was projecting a beam of light, which extended about 150 feet from the object towards the milk house. Strangely enough, the light was restricted to the beam. It didn't actually shine outside of it. And even stranger than this, there was a slight difference in description here. Mrs. Medke actually claimed that it appeared thicker to her than her husband described it, and also appeared to go around the corner of the barn, which is quite a trick for a beam of light. Now, possibly, even eerier than this strange half-moon light-emitting thingamabob, the couple quickly realized that they could actually no longer hear the dog, and as a matter of fact, the entire night had gone totally silent. However, the silence was soon interrupted by the sound of a person walking slowly on the gravel right outside their trailer. Now, the Medkes were both in agreement here that it definitely sounded like a person as opposed to an animal, so something bipedal. Unfortunately for us, and this is so unfortunate, the couple was too frightened to look outside. Now, before you call them total chickens, I guess they do have their reasons. They said that not only was the trailer not totally level, so any major movement risked it swaying, but also the door wouldn't close all the way, so they truly did not want to give away that anybody was in that trailer at all. However, after the walking noise vanished, Mr. Medke did venture to reach for his handy-dandy gun, which was in the drawer right next to the bed. So apparently the footsteps did return twice more throughout the night. However, each time, and this is a really interesting detail, they sounded as though they walked from north to south. No turning back around or coming from a different direction, just north to south each time. So finally, dawn began to lighten the interior of the trailer, and in the absolute silence, Mr. Medke heard his dog begin to whimper, then bark, then the sound of a huge yet muffled generator, which lasted only 6 to 8 seconds. At this point, the background noises returned. Now, later investigation revealed absolutely no traces in the field. However, Mrs. Medke's uncle, who lived a mile and a half away, claimed that he too had been awakened around 2:30 the previous night by the barking of his dogs. However, when he got up to investigate, he saw nothing out of the ordinary. So this is a funky case, which at first glance seems to be pretty simple. You have these two people who see this weird object and hear some weird noises, and they also don't hear normal noises. However, it really bears some incredibly strange aspects. First, we have one of my all-time favorite pet theories, that of the engagement of an animal, usually the family dog, with the anomaly. In this case, not only were the Medkes awakened by their dog barking and then running away, which alerted them to the phenomenon, but the uncle was also alerted to, well, nothing. What this does show us, though, is that there is confirmation. Some disturbance roused the dogs both with the Medkes and at the uncle's property at around the same time. So there was some disturbance which apparently all of these dogs in this area noticed. So in addition, I find it very strange that, one, the family in the house didn't hear the German Shepherd absolutely losing its mind as it retreated back towards the house. And two, not only did the anomaly start and was ushered in, it seems like, by the German Shepherd barking and whimpering and running away, the continuation of normality was also ushered in by the German Shepherd whimpering. So it was there at the beginning of the weirdness, and it was also there at the end as well. Now, of course, this prolonged silence in the middle, when you have the sighting of the strange object and also the footsteps, would be exactly what Jenny Randall's termed the Oz factor, that period of time where everything just seems to fall silent and the experiences almost seem kind of isolated in this bubble of influence. We also have mention of this fantastic generator noise, observed so very often in conjunction with poltergeists, ghosts, UFOs, and of course, cryptids like Bigfoot or Mothman. Now, while on the topic of Bigfoot, it's amazing to me how many accounts of people hearing walking noises exactly like this one are simply chalked up to Sasquatch. I would venture to guess that had the Medkeys not seen the strange luminous half-moon shaped object, this probably would have been tossed in the Bigfoot bin as well. Now, strangest of all, in my opinion, is the behavior of whatever it was that was walking right by the trailer. First of all, boy, do I wish they would have just chanced a look outside, but they didn't. So, on the one hand, what's to stop this from just being some random dude? So, first of all, I find it really interesting that the German Shepherd did not respond to the walking. Even though it did run back to the house, it was still in the area, as we can see when it was heard early in the morning. So, I find it much likelier that it would have begun barking had this been some random prowler. Also, the fact that the footsteps were heard each time to come from the same direction, without the Medkeys hearing a reapproach, would mean that it had to be three separate instances of walking, unless someone did like a huge loop around to come from the same direction each time. Which again, we're just kind of asking what is the likelihood of that. Also of note is the fact that the steps returned 3 times. A common repetition in paranormal encounters, of course, is the number 3. Now, I guess it's kind of the question of context here. Is it possible it could have just been some person walking through doing a huge loop, or maybe even 3 separate people for goodness knows what reason? Of course, that's totally possible. However, in combination with the strange light and the massive Oz factor, which was going on at the time of the footsteps, to me it seems likely that the footsteps were anomalous. So, going on that angle, the fact that each time they walked from north to south reminds me of the good old Sharpsville Shambler, which of course was this Bigfoot-like creature. And this was seen to come from the same area and move in the same direction each sighting. Now, in that video as well as this, to me that calls to mind cases of hauntings, where a ghost walks its path each night or day or every Tuesday at 5 or whatever. In addition to that, we have a handful of traditions regarding straight-line travel by the paranormal. Now, particularly, there's the folkloric belief in straight-line ferry paths of the British Isles. Parallels, no pun intended, can be drawn to the straight-line travel of ghosts in Chinese tradition. There's the old straight track or ley lines. One incarnation of the Wild Hunt is said to travel along straight paths. You've got the Hell Road, the Ghost Way, the Death Road. There is a definite thread throughout folklore of many different world cultures and supernatural beliefs that supernatural beings travel along straight lines. Now, to bring up, again, one of my personal favorite things, the ferry angle, we have this agricultural setting. This happened literally within view of a milk house. You have the Medkeys parking their trailer between the milk house and the garage. Here, is it that much of a stretch to draw a line between this and folkloric cases of the interruption of the ferry path? If so, the Medkeys were lucky enough to escape with their health intact so far as we know. Now, this is before even talking about the most definite aspect of this encounter, and that is the half-moon shaped light-emitting object. First and foremost, the bizarre little detail that the beam of light was a strong, definite beam outside of which there was no illumination. That detail comes up time and time again in regards to strange light, almost like the light is somehow contained within the shape rather than actually, a light emission as we understand it. And definitely so in this case, if we're to take Mrs. Medke's observation, in which she claimed that she saw the beam of light curve around the corner of the barn. Again, that is some trick for a beam of light. So, all in all, even though this case is definitely not as dramatic as some, it truly is a strange little case. So, if you enjoyed this episode on the Ogema Oddity, please like, and if you're new to this field of crop circles, go ahead and subscribe to see what weirdness the future may have in store. Till then, you can keep up with whatever else I might possibly have going on my website, justanothertinfoilhat.com, and for exclusive content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, which is also listed under, strap on your seatbelts for this one, guys, Just Another Tinfoil Hat. For today, I am Zelia Edgar, signing off.
Doing.